try over and over and over again, but all the failure kind of bums you out. I'm the worst CEO. The last time I replaced myself, this guy sold my business in 13 months. He was a killer.
He left our company, and then I think 3 or 4 weeks passed away from fentanyl.
Because now people are dying from fentanyl. All the time they're dropping. And he scores one time on the street because he's sick. One time. And he drops dead of fentanyl.
Yo, welcome to another episode of the Founder Podcast. Today, I am joined by Mr. Richard Taite. He is the founder of Cliffside Malibu, which, when he sold, was the most famous, incredible rehab center on planet Earth. I am super stoked to be hanging with you tonight, Richard.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So we are here in his home studio. The what did you call it?
The War Room.
The War Room. Yeah, this is a pretty sweet setup. He's got for those that are watching on YouTube and Spotify, he's got this really cool setup behind his home. It's got like a disappearing wall that goes out to the backyard area. Beautiful fire. It's a vibe. It's a good vibe.
It's quaint.
Yes, sir. So Richard, man, you went and you sold your business it's been about 5 years?
5.5 years.
5.5 years ago. You sold off to private equity. It was a 9-figure exit. Tell us about how it felt when that took place, when you exited the business.
You know, you go ahead and you're chasing it all the time. Mm-hmm. And then pretty much like everything else you chase, when you get it, you hate it. Mm. And I remember the first week after the wire hit, it was the worst week of my entire life.
Mm. You know, and it's interesting because people that haven't gone through that, it's really hard for them to understand. They're like, sure, you pompous prick, you know, you've got 9 figures wired into your account. Did you sell 100% of the business, or did you roll forward any?
No, I didn't roll forward.
Okay. So they're thinking at home, they're like, what a pompous prick, right? Like, cause I get it. And I felt the same exact way. The thing that most people can't understand that both you and I have gone through is like, just because you have money doesn't make the problems go away. Right. And when you no longer have something to chase, it creates a different problem.
That wasn't my issue.
What was it?
I missed my friends.
Yeah.
See, I worked with all my friends.
Right.
And I would go into work every day and I'd hang out with my friends and we would do the best work. And then, so I left, and not only did I not have purpose, right, but I wasn't with my people. And so I had nothing to do.
So walk me through like how you felt in that moment.
The first thing I did was I went into shock because I couldn't believe, what we did. But after that, and it was on a Friday. Then it was a Saturday and a Sunday, and people don't work on weekends typically. The client-facing team does, but
right.
They didn't. And so I wasn't missing anything. And then Monday came, and I had nowhere to go. Mm. And I felt myself getting angry. Yeah. And then I just got angrier and angrier and angrier. And then it went to depression, right? Yeah. And it was like I was despondent. Now, let me just tell you, I had to go. I was out of steam, right? I mean, I worked.
It was the right time to sell.
For me personally.
Right. Financially,
no.
Right.
I had to go though.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you do this for 15 years. You want to light yourself on fire. You're literally on fumes.
Right.
But I've had a long time to rest.
Yeah.
And think about this.
Yeah.
And that's why we opened Carrera. Carrera Treatment, Wellness, and Spa. And let me tell you something, you're never going to see that again because private equity doesn't know how to do that. Okay. And not only that, but who's going to do that? Who's going to put a spa, and have that part of their treatment center? we have a world-class spa in the treatment center. And I hired the spa manager, the spa director from the Ojai Valley Inn, which is a top 100 spa in the country, right? And I just grabbed her out of there, and she's with us.
So when you say spa, is this going to be like a day use spa, or just part of the facility that people can go and utilize?
No, this is not this is part of the program.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're teaching self-care and self-love, because here's the thing. I've been doing this and treated thousands of people. And I can honestly, in 15 years, I can tell you, I've never met a person who wanted to kill themselves with drugs and alcohol who loved themselves, ever. So these are not bad people. They're sick. This is their turn. And I want to make certain that it's successful.
Right.
Okay. So, purpose is everything.
Yeah.
Okay. The people that matter, the relationships that matter in your life, and how many people you can help.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to get. There's only to give. And if I live my life that way, then I'm blessed over and over and over again. Because I'm not the smartest guy in any room I walk into.
So, Richard, I mean, this sounds very close to home and personal. So, I mean, tell us your story. I mean, obviously, it sounds like you've been associated with, I mean, this type of addiction.
Well, like I said, I've treated thousands of people. Yeah. And out of the thousands of people, it's not that it's a contest, but, let's call it what it is. I might have seen, out of the thousands of people, maybe a dozen who were as bad as me. And I don't think there was anybody worse than me.
So, like, how long did you battle personally with it?
About 2 decades.
And I'm assuming, like, going through that,
almost 2 decades.
I mean, is where all the inspiration came to go and treat these type of...
Well, I got sober a certain way. And I was lucky enough to have a therapist that used the stages of change model to help me. Now, that doesn't treat anybody, but what it does is it tells you where you are in your arc of progress, right? So it's like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't know the way out, but you follow the light, right?
Yeah.
I had a certain outlook on this thing that I had never had before, because I tried to get sober in AA, and it took me 3 years just to get 30 days, right? So obviously, you try over and over and over again, but all the failure kind of bums you out. Yeah. So I started doing therapy, and I was lucky enough to have this woman that took care of me. And I showed up on, every Friday, never missed it. And at month 11, I think, she says to me, "Are you getting anything out of this?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Then why are you here every Friday without fail on time?" And I said, "Because I'm slow, but I'll get it, I promise. It's just not there yet." And at 15 months, I got it, because therapy is a language, and it's here, but it's really here.
So there's 3 things I want to talk about.
Sure.
1, what led to drug addiction in the first place and kind of your path into it. 2.
Well, let's do one at a time.
Wait,
I won't be able to remember.
You're good. Hey, so I want kind of the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Done.
Is essentially what I'm looking for. So yeah, tell me about the beginning. What initially, like, why did you initially turn to it? And what was there an initial battle, or were you just, both feet in?
I'm the blame the parent guy.
Yeah.
Okay, pretty much that's just the way it is. Kids not getting their basic needs met as a child, right? Back in my day, you were getting hit all the time.
Yeah. So
me and my brothers just got wailed on all the time. And so what happens when that happens is, if you're, let's say, 5 years old and you're getting beat up and you're told you were bad and everything else, it's too scary for a 5-year-old to say, my parents, are less than perfect, right? It's too scary, because you're relying on them for food and shelter,
right?
And emotional, whatever.
It's
completely dependent.
Right.
And so instead what they do is they internalize it and they say, "I'm bad." And then every time they're disappointed or hit or ridiculed or embarrassed, they reinforce that thought. So pretty soon you're a 45-year-old man, and you're letting a 5, 6, and 7-year-old run your yourself. And now all of a sudden you're bad. Okay. Next, you take a drink and you start abusing it because, your head's chewing on you, right? Right. And so that just quiets the noise. And if you're being tortured like that all the time and you get a respite from that, you're addicted. It's just like pain medication.
Right.
They call it painkillers. Okay. But it actually works better on emotional pain. Do you know how people get addicted to painkillers? We're a depressive nation. We're depressed. They take a painkiller.
And they forget it all.
And it's on. And then after 7 days or so, right, they don't have it. It's got them. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. So that initially kind of drove you into that. You were trying to escape some of the childhood trauma and everything that you were.
Yeah, it was a really bad childhood for me. Right. And so and I had really bad examples. So I didn't know how to really socialize because it was such a dysfunctional family unit that I go out into the world and instead of ingratiating people, right, or, instead I'm alienating people,
right?
Okay, because I don't know any better.
How did that make you feel as a child, like towards others? Was it jealousy? Was it hatred? Was it?
No, first of all, if your eyes are bad and you're going blind and you don't never put on glasses, you think that's how everybody sees the world. So I didn't have any idea that, I just figured, my friends were getting beaten and, I didn't.
You figured all parents were this way.
That's right.
Oh, man.
That's right.
Yeah. That's a tough way to live.
Remember, I didn't blame my parents.
Right.
I blamed myself.
Right. You thought you were the bad person.
That's right.
Right. And so was it alcohol that you first turned to, or what was it that you?
No, the first thing I did was I smoked pot at 12 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I stole it from my dad, from his bathroom, and then I took it to my friend's house, and we smoked on the side of his house the first time.
And immediately hooked.
No. I liked it because of the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
I wasn't a likable kid. And so to bond, because we're all communal people, right? We need community, we need relationships, we need friendships, right? And so to have that friendship with my buddy Christopher was, to me, everything. Yeah. I had nothing.
At one point, would you say that like things got out of control? So you're 12 years old, you first start on down that path.
The first time it got really out of control for me was I was 16 years old. My father told me to take the car into a mechanic. The mechanic drove me home, went into my bathroom, and was in there for 45 minutes. So I just walked in, and he's smoking this white stuff out of a glass pipe. And before I could say anything, that pipe was in my mouth, shoved it in my mouth. And I took that one hit.
This was from a mechanic.
That's right.
Wow.
So it just completely random. Life just happened.
Wow.
And I took that hit of cocaine and that was it. I was done. And that was like every dollar I had would go to that.
Wow. And then so from then on, did it ever drive you to homelessness or on the streets or,
Yeah, I was homeless for a short period of time, but I once lived in 25 places in 5 years.
Wow.
I did the math, and I think it's every 5 months.
Were you couch surfing or?
No. I'd get in, and I'd pay my first and last and security deposit. Stop paying, dude. I'd get paid, and the check would turn into crack coupons. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only reason I know how many places I lived is because when I went to make my amends and pay everybody back, I pulled my credit report.
Oh, geez.
So I'm looking at it and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're like $300,000+ in debt, and you've lived in 25 places in 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was that guy.
Wow. And so like while this was happening, because you didn't even realize how many places you were in, had you lost like a level of consciousness where it was just like you were just day to day, crack pipe to crack pipe? Or?
The way I did it was I typically did it for 6 to 8 days in a row without sleep. And I'd eat a Big Mac once a week to keep myself alive.
And did you have a job at this time, or were you pushing drugs? Like what were you doing to survive?
I've never sold drugs in my life. Oh, I had a job, but we're not going to talk about that because I don't know if the statute has run.
But I mean, you were working to some level. You had an income, but I mean, all the income was going to.
Yeah, and I was doing really well too. I mean, I was doing very well.
Yeah,
I was making a lot of money, and I was driving a $2,000 car.
And all that money was going to drugs.
All of it.
Wow. So you find yourself in this. So at what point did you make the decision, I've had enough?
That came a couple times. The first time I got sober was because I ran out of money. Okay. The second, and then I was sober for 2 years and 9 months. And then I went on a 15-month run. And then I got.
So how did you, I mean, 2 years and 9 months is quite a significant time, right? To be off drugs and everything else. Like what took you back?
Yeah, I've got a 14-year-old daughter. I don't think I'm going to tell you that one.
Okay.
But needless to say, okay, I went on that 15-month run and I didn't run out of money because if I worked 2 years and 9 months, I wasn't running out of money. Right. That wasn't going to be my issue. So what ended up happening was I've had maybe 300 different sobriety dates. So that's really, really bad.
Wow.
That's, a loser in AA.
Right. This is the day.
But I had 5 effortless ones. But as alcoholics, we don't focus on the 4 gifts we were given. Right? We only focus on the 4 gifts we were given, not the 300 failures.
Right.
Every second felt like an hour. Right. And this time I was aware of it. And I was aware of it because of all the therapy I did. And it just intuitively, I got it. And I said, if this is going to be effortless, if I'm given that one gift and I don't know if I'm going to get it for another 5 to 10 years, if ever again, right? You better be serious about it. And I was just full of gratitude. And I just thanked God. And I said, thank you. And I won't let you down. And that was it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you go and you make this change, and it took some time, right? Like you said, you had all these sobriety dates and everything. And then at what point did you decide, I want to go and help people like me that have gone through this? Like, was it day one?
No. I've always wanted to open a sober living. Yeah. I never knew anything about treatment because I'd never been.
Right.
But I went to a bunch of sober livings. And, at about 11 months, I bought this house in Malibu in 2013, but it was too big and it made me feel like very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So I bought a sweetie little cottage down the street and I turned this thing into Cliffside.
You turned it into Cliffside.
That's right. And, I started giving people therapy because that's what I got. And I knew that if we took them through the stages of change, we could get in there exactly where they were and get them to the light. But I was told that was illegal. And I'm like, what's illegal about it? And they said, that's called treatment. I said, wait a minute, I'm just giving these people more than I promised. Right. And they're like, no. So I went and I got my license and
to be able to give treatment.
That's right. And that's when we did it. And it was in 2005.
2005, you launch.
I launched.
You started going. And based on some of our previous conversations, you said for the first few years, you did fine. And it wasn't until later that you're like, we're gonna go and really crank this thing up.
Yeah, I for years had an issue. I was conflicted. See, in AA, you do it for fun and for free, and you help people because you can.
Right.
And even though I had a treatment center and it's a business, I couldn't wrap my head around getting money for helping people.
You felt guilty about it.
Totally. And it drove me insane. And then I went.
Like, what were the voices in your head saying? Like, I can't be doing this. Like, what were you hearing?
You're a
Yeah, you're charging people to help save their lives.
Right. And then I went to this Swami named Swami Radhanath. And I would see him every single year. And I would go over this with him and my pain over it every year. And on year one, he looked at me and he said, and I'm crying. And he looks at me and he says, wouldn't it be a better world if everyone could help people for a living? Wah, wah, right? And he just kept saying it over and over again. And it didn't click. And the next year, we went through the same exact dance. And the third year, we went through the same exact dance. But I got it because remember, I'm slow. And that happened at the beginning of 2012. And that's when I could align myself with it and be heart-centered over it, right? And the second I was heart-centered and I was doing everything for the right reasons, it blew up.
Awesome. What do you think separated you? Well, I mean, still separates you because you're back in the industry and whatnot from every other treatment center in the world.
Oh, that's easy. Carrera, there's a buzz around Carrera that's insane. Yeah. Okay. Everybody in the industry knows, we're back. Okay. Carrera is like nothing you've ever seen before. When I owned Cliffside, I owned it for 15 years. So think of it this way. What if you took the best people that ever worked for you over that 15-year period, right? You'd have an all-star team.
Absolutely.
I've got 24 of those.
Nice. And you're able to bring them back.
They're the finest clinicians on the face of the earth. There's no debate about it.
And what makes them the finest? Like what?
Because not only are they the most learned, and I don't mean they have more experience because we had so many clients, and we worked at a pace that was mindful, yet it was at times it's like an ER room, right? And the pressure's like that. So the only way you really survive that is with good souls who are working with you. And we've got the best souls.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some principles that you have lived by within your business that could apply to any industry that really has separated the way you've ran business?
You have to be heart-centered.
And what does that mean?
You have to understand that there's nothing to get, that there's only to give. And if you do the right thing, the money will come. Don't worry about it. You cannot be in faith and fear at the same time. Go try it. It doesn't work. Yeah. I thank God in advance. Nobody outworks me. Okay. And I'm heart-centered. Yeah. The idea is you leave this place better than you found it. And if you're one of the best people in the world at treating drug addicts and alcoholics and you don't do it, you're right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you don't do what you were called to do, right? What you've been put on.
Especially something like giving people back their family.
Right.
I mean, I'm a father. Yeah. Okay. And when you have kids as late in life as I did, you don't just love your kids, you love all kids.
Right.
Right. So I have a different perspective on giving a father back his daughter or a mother back her son. Right. I mean, there's nothing better than that because now people are dying from fentanyl all the time. They're dropping.
I had a guy that worked for us. He was a salesman. This was actually just a few months ago. He left our company and then I think 3 or 4 weeks passed away from fentanyl.
I had a client who had 7 years sober, got into a car accident, had surgery on his back. The doctors put him on opiates for longer than he needed to be. So now the doctor cuts him off. Now he's doctor shopping, going to all these doctors. Then all the doctors cut him off. And he scores one time on the street because he's sick. One time. And he drops dead of fentanyl. Now, I have another center, and it's called One Method. Carrera is for ultra high net worth individuals, okay, who have to be comfortable as humanly possible in a very uncomfortable time. But the other center I have is closer to my heart, and I'll tell you why. We get so many calls for Carrera that the people that we take, the people that can't afford Carrera, we funnel downhill to One Method. Okay? One Method is an in-network facility. What does that mean? That means they're for ordinary people, okay? Got HMOs, hardworking Americans doing the right thing, and then they get maybe surgery or a bad back, whatever it is, okay? And then, it's got them, they don't got it. So that's the thing we're interested in doing. And at Carrera, we're looking, and One Method, we're looking to have 1,000 treatment beds, 1,000 military beds, and 1,000 mental health beds, because I believe solving a social problem is worth a lot of money. After speaking to the Swami, that's what I think. And I know there's a problem in Washington too, because I landed there in Seattle and I drove into town and I saw the encampments and I couldn't take it. And in LA, same thing. And I don't like it. So what I want to do is I want to clean the streets. I want to literally pick people off the street and put them in a place and take care of them and change their lives for the better. That's what I want.
I love it. So I love the mission of going and cleaning up what's happening. Is what, in your mind, what can we do to prevent it from ever happening?
Prevent what from ever happening?
People getting into drugs. How do we solve the root of the problem? It's interesting. I had Tim Ballard. Do you know who Tim is?
I do not.
So Tim.
Don't hate me, Tim.
No, you're fine. He's like the world leader of fighting human trafficking.
Okay. See, that makes me a bad person now.
No, that's fine. No problem. So I had him on my podcast, and one of the things we talked about. So he is fixing the symptoms, right? Like fixing the issues, like the people that are, like he's going and saving children in foreign countries that are already put into sex slavery.
He's a hero.
What's that? He's a hero.
He's a hero,
right? But one thing that we talked about is like he's sitting there grabbing the bodies as they're falling over the waterfall, and he's catching some and not others, right? He's saving some lives, but many are perishing along the way. And he's like, his ultimate goal is to how do we get to the root of it? And so my question is in regards to that, like how can we as a society begin to approach and fix the root cause of all this?
Be present with your children. When you're with your children, you're not on your phone. See, if you don't make your child feel like he's somebody, okay, then he grows up feeling like he's nobody. I get down at my child's level and I talk to him. Sometimes when he was a kid, you don't understand him. He says, that's great, baby. Wow. Right? That's it. The words don't matter. It's the connection, right? And it's the soft heart, right? If you're like that with your children, if you're attuned to their needs, I'm not saying spoil your kids. There's nothing to do with it. Listen, my kids are good people, really good people. I have no idea how they turned out that way, okay? But I tried to do the best I could, okay? And this is the result. Of course, my ex-wife is the best mother on the face of the earth, but to the extent that I contributed to it, It had to have been good, because my kids are good.
What I'm hearing you say is like, we need to fix the family. We need to fix the family unit, the connection between fathers and mothers and children, and being better examples, going back to the basic foundations that made America great at one point.
Modeling is everything. Modeling is everything. I had a bad model. Okay. My ex-wife had a great model. She turned out great. I turned out horrible. Okay. Now I saved it. Okay. Because, by the grace of God, I was taken care of. Okay. But it's kind of like we had a deal. Like, okay, I'm going to take care of you. Okay. But you're going to pay me back.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I've spent my life doing, man.
Yeah.
Paying it back.
I know in like AA and like the 13 steps and those type of things, I know one of the big focuses is on having a belief in a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
How do you attribute that to your success or your recovery or anything like that?
Well, here's the thing about God. I love God. If I think about it too long, I get emotional. Because the way I operate is I do what I'm told, what I feel, right? And I just do what my boss says. And we have the same boss. And that's just the way it is. Because we've been talking for a while now, and I'm not a Mensa candidate. Okay? I operate one way. Heart-centered, and nobody outworks me. And that's it. And I hire the best people in the world. We set the culture, we set the vision, and then I let them do their thing because I've never hired anybody that wasn't smarter than me.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're pretty phenomenal at building culture. What would you say, like some of the core things that you focus on for creating a great culture?
Accountability. Like there's nobody it would be funny if somebody in our company said, well, he threw me under the bus. If we ever heard those words, they'd be given their walking papers. That's not how we do it here. Everybody is accountable for everyone else. People make mistakes. You come correct. You say, hey, we here. Sorry, we screwed up here. I'm sorry, we screwed up. I'm sorry, we screwed up here. Okay? And then once we hear that, it's like, it's a hug and a pat on the back. And it's like, thanks, man. Okay. And they know not to do this again. You look at them and you're like, okay, we're done here. We're not going to do that again. Nope, we're not. And then it's over because they came to you. You didn't have to go to them. That's who these people are. Can you imagine having 57 people like that? You could rule the world.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Sounds like a fantastic place to work. Great place to be around.
Well, they believe it. They believe in it. Look, they've all seen it. Everybody knows how this ends, right? So all I care about and all they care about, okay, is giving people back their loved ones because that's what we do.
I love it. It's a great vision. It's a great mission. Like I'm a big guy, or I'm a big believer in focusing on vision and mission, and that mission-driven businesses change the world, right? And ultimately are the most financially successful, right? Because money is simply a derivative of value created. And
especially if you're too stupid to know, how hard it is at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Well, you're good if you don't know.
Right. So do you see yourself selling this business or growing and this being the passion for the rest of your life?
I just told you I wanted 3,000 beds so I could treat. So 3,000 times 12 is what, 36?
Yep.
So I just told you I want to treat 36,000 people a year.
Yeah.
Does it sound like I'm retiring?
No.
Does it sound like we're selling?
But the beauty of is when you have a big vision like that, you can accomplish it a whole lot faster than you realize.
Oh yeah.
So what happens if we're 5 years down the road and you've accomplished it? Are you going to keep running?
After my last experience? Absolutely. I mean, look, nothing is, I could get sick, right? And then, you've got a family, right? But I've already sold a business. I know what that feels like. If I'm going to sell a business, it ain't going to be, for that. Okay. If I sell a business, it's going to be after I find out who we are. I want to find out who we are. I mean, if you run fast, you have to run fast.
So running businesses, selling businesses, running incredible culture, obviously you dealt with a lot of difficulty, right? Like going and building a 9-figure business is no easy task.
You keep saying 9 figures. I never told you 9 figures, and I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Oh, hey, that's it's what I read.
Okay, good.
It's what I read. Okay. So it's out there.
Okay, I'm sure.
It's out there. So you sell this large business, right?
Right.
If we will.
Sure.
How do you deal with adversity and difficulty, right? Like what is your methodology in addressing, like, whether it's, an employee difficulty or whatever, like, each one of us have a little bit different philosophy on that.
So the 12 people, the core people that I had, they deal with it. And most of the time, I don't even know about it. See, you have to understand I'm the worst CEO on the face of the earth. Now, I was telling people.
I would probably say that's not true.
No, see, you think I'm being self-deprecating, but you'd be wrong, okay? I'm an entrepreneur. I build things, okay?
You're a good CVO, Chief Visionary Officer.
I'm a dreamer.
Yeah.
I ask the right questions, okay? What if we could do that? And then I go and find out whether we can do that. Okay, that's how I operate.
Which I would say makes you an incredible CEO.
No, I'm the worst CEO. The last time I replaced myself, this guy sold my business in 13 months. He was a killer. Okay, this time.
And he made significantly more than what you made.
Oh, he beat the shit out of me. It was just worked me. Right. And, I helped out when I got there. I made certain to plug the holes and fill the gaps because these guys typically have 3 moves. Right. And then they disregard other stuff. So you're there plugging the holes. Right. So there was that. But this new CEO that I'm about to marry. Okay. That's what I call it. It's a marriage.
Yeah.
Okay. I love this woman. She is so much better than this other guy. She is
killer.
She took a business that was worth almost nothing and sold it for $850 million in 5 years.
That's pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Right? So
better than most.
She's the best thing ever. Yeah. She's the best thing
Sounds
ever.
Awesome.
And the only reason I'm talking about this right now is because before you air this, she'll be signed, sealed, and delivered.
I love it.
So she won't know how pregnant I
am. I love it. So this new treatment center that you're working on, is it just for people that struggle with drugs and alcohol?
Carrera Treatment, Wellness, and Spa is for people with substance use disorder. Obviously, alcohol use. But today's alcoholic and today's substance user almost never is just that. Everybody has some element of a co-occurring disorder. So, for example, bipolar disorder, or it could just be a major stress or major anxiety or depression, borderline personality disorder, right? It could be all these things or any number of those things. And so you treat them together because think about it logically, right? If you've lost a decade or two, right, to drugs and alcohol, you ain't getting to rehab on a winning streak. You're walking in broken.
Right.
Right. And that's part of what the spa is about. It's like, think about this. People walk in completely busted, right? They've lost their teeth. A lot of times I had my teeth were all cracked. I couldn't see. Right? I hadn't been to a doctor or a dentist in a decade. I walked in completely broken. And here what we do is we put you right back together. Okay? Because we've got doctors on there, like with a phone call in 10, 15 minutes, right? Nurses on staff the entire time, 24/7. Like at least a 5 or 6 to 1 ratio for, I'm sorry, maybe 10. I don't remember. I just did it and I don't remember. Okay. But it was abusive. I mean, it was so intent on meeting their needs, showing them that they're important. Like from the beginning, we're undoing it all, right? I ain't got nothing to do other than be of service to you and take care of you because you're worth it. That's the idea. And all these spa treatments, people can think it's elitist or whatever. Hey, guess what? That ain't for them. It's for me. I'm my clientele. Because I got to tell you something. If I had a choice between going to a treatment center with bars on the windows, okay, or getting sober, or staying loaded, I'd rather stay loaded. And I don't care who hears it or what people think about it because they don't know.
Right.
Okay. What about people like us? Where do we go?
Right.
Okay. We get the top-notch treatment. We get treated well. This is something that people who are going through a horrible time in their lives and who have a life of comfort and convenience, this is for them. Okay. That's it.
I love it. Top tier. Serving I love it.
And these people, when you get them, right? Remember, these are the guys that, unless there was God forbid, a specific injury, like God forbid a rape or a huge beating or right, something like that. It's pretty much always not getting your needs met. Okay. And it can be from another relationship, but it's almost always the parents, right? So when they come here, we're attuned to their needs before they even know they have one. That's the level of attunement we have. Okay. They don't have to ask for a light bulb to be replaced or toilet paper or any of that. That's nonsense.
I love it. Sounds like a high quality. I'm excited to see what you do with it. And this is all pretty new, right? You said you recently.
Yeah. We recently got our license, but I've been running one method because I was chomping at the bit, right? So we bought this in-network center and everybody came back to do it. And, we've got this line. One method is going to be the same thing as Carrera, the same treatment.
Yeah.
So they're going to get the best treatment in the world. They're just not getting wraps and scrubs and, facials and massage and, they're just not getting that stuff.
I love it. Richard, thank you so much for sharing your vision. I can tell the passion that you have. I mean, the emotion that comes out and like just your excitement to change and impact and develop lives. How can my listeners, the people that are tuning into this podcast, how can we help push forward the mission that you're trying to accomplish?
Well, if anybody has a problem with a loved one, okay, and they want them to have the best shot at getting well, all they have to do is go to CarreraTreatment.com, and that's no E, no E. All A's, CARRARA, treatment.com. And they'll talk to one of the most compassionate, professional, caring human beings in the world. And I know who's answering the phones because we're all close and I've trained them all, right? So what we do then is if they can't come to us, we send them to one method. And if they can't go to one method, we do whatever we can to find a place for them. Because if I ever had anybody that worked for me that just got off the phone with somebody because they couldn't go to one of our centers, they wouldn't be here. Yeah. And they know it. And I don't have souls that would even think that way. Everybody that calls gets the same treatment and the same love and the same care. That's somebody's kid. That's somebody's father. That's somebody's grandfather. Okay, they matter to us.
Yeah, I love that. And the one thing I know about addiction is that it doesn't, only affect one certain class of people. It's every class, right? Like there's people silently battling. There's, people that are going through things that we don't even realize. And so I think this message is necessary to be heard. To kind of wrap this whole episode up, I want to go back to one of the things that we talked about earlier. You know, you talked about after your exit, you went through a level of depression.
Oh, yeah.
How did you come out of that?
I got back. I came back.
What did you do?
I grabbed my friends. I grabbed my people. And we came back. We opened Carrera.
You found new purpose.
Well, I refound my purpose.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing, for being vulnerable tonight and sharing your story.
Please. I'm like John Boehner. I'm a goddamn baby.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing your message with us. Until next time.